Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
I'm Jessica Faust.
Our topic today is when can you pitch more than one book at a time?
Yeah, we get this topic a lot, especially for authors who want to write or are writing in multiple genres.
Yeah.
And I have two books, can I pitch you both books? How do I handle that? If they're two completely different genres, can I be shopping them to different agents? I think there's a lot of variables and a lot of questions we get. So I think we're going to try to hit on them all.
Right. And I think also the confusion steps in when it's two age groups, like, younger and older. I think there's a lot of, because there's less agents that will sort of do both age groups and there are do different genres.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to sort of touch on it all. So where should we start?
Let's start. Let's start in the world where you are writing in two different genres, and let's say adult or YA or sort of the bigger book.
Right. By bigger book, you mean longer novels.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's use the example of I've written this book. It's a thriller. And I've gone out with it and I'm shopping it and I've also now finished my second book. I want to query them both because I haven't yet gotten an agent on the first book. My advice is put the first book to bed. So my advice is by the time you finish and fully revise that second book, you have presumably hit a lot of agents with that first book.
Right.
Whether it's 50, whether it's 100, whether it's 25, whatever it is, you're not getting what you want from that book. You're not getting an agent.
Right.
So rather than try to muddy the waters by pitching two books at once, I think that when that second book is ready to go out on submission, that is your cue that the first book is done. So yeah, that would be my advice on that. I think that it gives you a good stopping point. And then you can easily hit up those same agents as well as some new ones or however you want to do it. But I think that's a good timeline for you in submission. When I'm done with that next book, it's time to put the previous book to bed.
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot on the channel too, but it is very much a mindset game. So when you are querying, when you're doing anything in publishing, really, you have to have the mindset to continue doing it. And querying in particular can be sort of deflating. So querying two books can sort of deflate your focus, deflate your enthusiasm. And when you have that next book, moving on is sort of a signal of building your career, right? Like you're going to your next steps, you're trying again, you're starting with a fresh start. But it can be done to pitch both books at like two different books at a time. But in the case where you're writing sort of in the similar vein, it's probably best to move on.
Yeah, and what I would say to that too is that your writing, no matter what stage you're at in your career, should be growing with each book you write. So when you're sending out that second book, it is presumably better than that first book.
Right.
So put your best foot forward always. Put that first book away and get on with that second book.
Agreed. So maybe we should also talk a little bit in terms of picture books because it's very different to submit those.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're submitting a picture book, you will query your one book, but you have what's called a submission package. So you have 2 to 3 additional manuscripts. So most picture book writers and creators in general, will sort of query any book in the submission package to make the best impression on that agent. So the way I like to think of it is when you're querying a book, sure, you are sending one book out, but think of it as your full package. So you are sending your full package out and you can sort of lead with any book in that submission package. But before you start, like when you have a new submission package, that's when it's time to sort of make the switch. So it's pretty similar, just in the fact that you have one book when you're querying a novel and you have an entire package when you are querying picture books. The only difference is that when you are querying future submission packages, if an agent really loved the book from your earlier manuscript your earlier package, or one of them was particularly successful, then you can always include that in your newest one. But I still think the rules apply that you want to be growing and building and moving forward. So really look at whether that one manuscript from an older package is still as strong as your new package.
So, I just want to clarify this for myself.
Sure.
when you query in adult, you're writing one manuscript and you're querying that. In picture book, you're pretty much writing 5. And then when those 5 are done, you can start querying that group, that package. And we've discussed submission packages for picture books. We've done a video on that. We can link it below, but definitely look in our picture book playlist, and you can find that and everything else we've done on picture books to give you a better understanding of what we mean by a package.
Yeah. And I think that it's easier to sort of cater what you're querying when you're writing picture books. And that's a natural and probably a really smart strategy. But there is a lot of overlap that you want to watch and be careful, making sure you're organized and that you're not really sending the same books out to every agent over and over again. So that's really that's the main thing to watch when you're querying multiple books in picture books. But now if you're querying separate genres, what do you suggest?
I go with the same rule, one book at a time. I think that a lot of authors at the beginning of their writing career have visions of wanting to write in many different genres. And I encourage that, because while you're writing in multiple genres gives you growth as a writer. It gives you perspective on not just what you really want to write, but what you excel in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that doing that is great. But 90% of the time, once you get in the publishing track and get yourself an agent, you settle in because you found the thing that the place you belong. And it doesn't mean you can't switch and do other things, but you tend to settle in. So I would go by the same rule. I mean, at some point or another, there is a limited number of agents. It doesn't seem like it, but there really is. So at some point or another in your genre, you are running out of agents and probably really just digging to find some.
Right. And a limited number of agents that you would want to work with too.
Yes.
You can query all the agents out there, but do you really want to work with all the agents out there?
Right. And I think that's a really important thing to say. So I would say the same rules apply, one book at a time. If for some reason, and I haven't seen this in a long time, so I think this message has really gotten through. If for some reason you really feel like you need to be querying 2 books at the same time, do not pitch any agent 2 books at once.
Yeah, I actually get a lot of these. So maybe it is the picture books and shorter works that just sort of lend itself to that. Hey, this is everything I've got. I think that, I want to focus in on that one book, and I want to know that you've got to focus, really. Right. So one at a time.
So your query letter should only focus on one book. Mm-hmm. And when you're querying me, don't send me 3 query letters that are 3 different books either.
Yes, especially in picture books.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think it's fine. Any agent will tell you that we're happy to see the queries. So if you send us one and it's not a fit, down the line you want to send us another, we're happy to see it. But don't sort of bombard and send everything all at once.
No, and the key really is down the line.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the hardest things about any business is letting go of something that you worked hard on. And I'm just going to bring up food because it's fun. But, have you ever been to that restaurant where the menu never changes?
Yeah.
And you're like looking at that one dish that was really hot in like 1994, and nobody buys it, but you also know they're like, oh, but that was a big seller in 1994.
Well, I think it's funny you bring up restaurants because restaurant owners are really good at this, right? And maybe it's, has to do with the success of the restaurant, but restaurant owners typically close down and start up new restaurants all the time.
Yeah, they do. That's funny. I hadn't thought about it in that way. They do.
Yeah, and it's following their market. It's following what they're good at, where they're good at it, and things like that. And sure, again, there's a lot of restaurant owners that maybe just their restaurant tanks in one place. That's not what I'm referring to. But like if you look at the big names, Bobby Flay is always closing and opening up restaurants,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting that you made that analogy.
Yeah, well, and it's finding new things and new creativity. And I think the authors who truly succeed are moving from step to step to step. And not sort of
forward and forward.
Back.
They're moving forward. Forward momentum.
Yes.
I was really.
I know. I got a little scared. You were really pushing that one.
Sorry. So if you're querying multiple things, just be mindful of what you're querying and how you're querying it. It is possible, but we think it's stronger to focus in and put your best foot forward at all times.
And it is not a failure to put a book away.
Yes.
Every single author out there has a book or a portion of the book or an idea that will never see the light of day. And that is actually a sign of success, not failure.
Yeah, you never know when they'll come back too. Those little nuggets of a book might show up in some other way. But yeah. Well, we hope this was helpful to all of those in the querying trenches. Please think of Bookends when you do send your queries out. And we hope you like and subscribe and join us back here next time.
Bye.